going, at this stage, they're actually not going ahead with the proposed name change as out on business papers. I know that Federation was in support. It looks like South Australia was very strongly against it because of the term local government. They did not sit comfortable with the concept at all. So we're back to the drawing board, basically.
Councillor Thomas, would you like to speak against that?
Well, just to clarify the process, it's a couple of ways. You can either just amend it and council note the report on the proposal to change the name, and you can just let it lay. Or you can still support the change, and if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere.
Can I just make this just a minute? We actually still support, if it was to come back onto our record again, that in its current format, regardless of what happened yesterday, we actually do support a name change. But what format that name change might take might look a little bit different than the proposed one sitting with us here today. So at this stage, obviously, we have to take the board directive from yesterday and add it to our own set of minutes, I would presume.
Well, we don't need to take the board directive.
We don't?
No, as member councils, it's not adversarial, but we can still make any point. So would it assist maybe to have the council support the proposal to change the name of the Murray-Darling Association and receive a further report as the matter progresses through the board?
And obviously too, there'll probably be a lot more robust discussion too come conference, I would say, when we're all in the room together.
Okay.
Did you want to make note of what?
Maybe that's, maybe if Rochelle brings that up, and we'll just check that.
Do you want me to give Rochelle this sheet of paper on these recommendations?
Probably to that extent. Maybe will that cover it? We just support the proposal to change the name and receive a further report as the matter progresses through the MBA board. At least they know our position is okay
that's right, exactly.
Change and go with. But yeah, the take I got out of that might have been the Region 2 recent one you chaired. Yeah. Was that it was a divisive enough issue that it was not worth putting effort into that when there's bigger things that need resolving around water and that rather than worry about name change or logo.
Just talked about the MDA. It's a really rapidly fast-paced organisation at the moment. Yeah. There's a lot of things happening. And I was just saying earlier, it seems to me that more and more people are coming to MDA or MDA representatives for comment or input. Like, that's how fast it is changing.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
it's good. Thank you, Councillor Thomas.
So was Councillor Law okay that we just amended that?
Yes, fine, thank you.
Councillor Longwhite.
Yeah, if I may add a comment in regard to the controversy around it. Where were we at a MDA conference? Was it Moama or Leeton where there was a similar debate? It was suggested at that time. It'd be 2 years ago, wouldn't it?
Probably both forums, Councillor Longwhite. The Leeton one was, say, 2019 or something, or might have been 18, and then the Moama one was the following year.
Yeah, I think it needs to come to a position at the forthcoming general AGM conference. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's like the regional boundaries. Everyone's just getting sick of the constant churn of whether they're going to review and relook at boundaries, and it all just seems to be needing a bit of leadership.
Yeah, you're right.
Was there anything, Councillor, Mr Mayor, about the Albury meeting, about the Region 1 and 2 boundaries?
No, but they would. It's coming up. They're going to throw a question in the conference and bring the discussion on general boundaries across the basin. But certainly look at their own. But look at what else is opportunity out there. And name. I was just wondering, with that name change too, does that exclude other authorities and other interests other than local government?
That was probably the biggest concern. Yeah. Like, as you would be very well aware, we do have independent, like Murray Irrigation was in the room with us last Thursday, which was really exciting because their input was so valuable. So yeah, does it exclude organisations like that becoming part of the conversation?
Yeah. Which wouldn't be positive, would it?
No.
Okay, any further comment on that? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Final report 7.4 Ballpark Caravan Park contract update. So recommendation there is to defer 7.4 under section 10A2 of the Local Government Act for those matters outlined, or those reasons outlined, I should say. So,
thank you. Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Longley. Questions or comments, councillors? I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried. And thank you, Mr General Manager. We'll move to item number 8, Director of Corporate and Community Services report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Morning, councillors. This first report is Council's monthly financial performance report for the month of March 2021. The key highlights there is that income year to date is sitting at $36 million against a full year budget of $48 million, so that's where we would expect it to be at this stage of the financial year. Our expenditure is sitting at $30 million year to date against a full year budget of $42 million, and so that's 72% of the full year's expenditure budget has been incurred when we're 75% of the way through the year, so that's on target. Council has $8.15 million in the general fund cash reserves, noting that that is committed to existing budgeted projects. Debtors is sitting at $9.6 million. It's increased by about $1.6 million from the previous month because we've issued the latest round of water bills to the community, to those users. And overall capital expenditure is generally on budget. So that report is provided to you for noting.
Excellent. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
8.2 relates to Council's Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. That committee met on the 5th of March and draft minutes are included in the report for noting. In addition, the minutes from the December meeting of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee have now been adopted by the committee and are also provided to you for noting.
Someone like to move by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
Agenda item 8.3 also relates to our Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. So this committee was established in 2017 and it operates under the Audit Committee Charter, which is a charter that is adopted by Council. Through the term of this committee, it's continued to meet its obligations and make improvements to the way Council actually operates and manages risk through the organisation. The annual report by the Chair of the Audit Committee provides a summary of the committee's activities to Council, and that is provided to you and recommended to you for noting today.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments? Not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried.
8.4 relates to round 2 of Council's Community Grants Program. So this program closed, or applications in it closed on the 19th of March, and there were 11 eligible applications received, seeking total funding of $20,784, which is slightly different to what's in the paper, but the figure's $20,784. This report recommends that all eligible applications be granted funding under round 2 of the Community Grants Program. I think it's important to note that there were 2 applications that were deemed ineligible, and that's where one entity submitted multiple applications. So they submitted one entity submitted 3 applications under this grants program, and so there were communications with that group to identify what their priority project was, and that priority project is recommended for funding. So the recommendation is to approve to note the report and approve the recommended funding allocations for round 2 of the 2021 Community Grants Program, totalling $20,784.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, no, as one of the councillors with Councillor Longley and Wales is on this committee, it's great to see that with the community are asking for money, but I'd like to see more because we get sort of a lot of them the same all the time. It'd be good if it a lot of people sort of, I don't think they know about it, but you know, they're not I don't know, there's a lot of little groups out there they could do with $500 for this or $500 for that, and it'd be great to see more involvement and more applications put in so we can make some very good decisions, because we couldn't even spend all the money last trip, so you know, it'd be good to see some more ops coming. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Thomas.
Just on that point, do we have to consider about the shortfall of funds that they carry over? Do we have to move a recommendation for that to happen? So next time the bucket's a little bit bigger for next time, what happens there?
I might pass that one on to. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Council is able to do that, or we can consider that as we're developing the budget for 21-22 and factor in the community grants program at that stage. So that's they're the two options that are available to council. So you can resolve that today or wait for the budget deliberations.
I'm happy either way. I'm really after directive, I suppose, which was a suggestion about how we're all comfortable with feeling, because obviously there's a portion there that hasn't, that could be carried over or reallocated elsewhere.
My recommendation to you would be to do that as part of the budget deliberation process.
All right, I'm happy.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.5, this report relates to the Corolla Sale Yards upgrade project, and it's seeking two things from council. Firstly, to adopt an updated long-term financial plan with revised revenue and expenditure relating to the upgrade, and also to note the capital expenditure review that's been undertaken for the project. So there's been an extensive capital expenditure review prepared and included in the papers that's been undertaken by Morrison Lowe. In that capital expenditure review, 4 options were considered. The first being to do nothing and not do any upgrade at all. The second one being to do an $11 million upgrade, which is looking at putting the roofing over the existing sale yards, doing an upgrade to the effluent management system so that we are complying with EPA regulatory requirements, developing a multi-purpose learning facility, doing an upgrade to the truck wash, and developing a public car park. So that's option 2. Option 3 was to do option 2 plus to accommodate growth and new opportunities, to do an expansion of the sale yards, do some upgrades to the stormwater systems, new weighbridge, security fencing, things like that. That would be a $7 million upgrade on top of the original $11 million. And then option 4 is to do option 2, 3, and that I've already mentioned, and a further $5 million of works with solar power, road improvements, washdown systems, things like that. So options 2 to 4 will all deliver a net benefit to the regional economy based on this report. So the net present value analysis suggests there's a significant net benefit across all of those 3 options, with the greatest benefit occurring in option 2, being the $11 million upgrade that is currently funded through a council contribution of $1.4 million and $9.2 million from the New South Wales State Government. The results of the financial analysis also indicate that option 2 has the most favourable revenue cost ratio compared to either option 1 or options 3 and 4. So for the purpose of the long-term financial plan, what has been modelled, we've modelled 2 options in the long-term financial plan, and that's what's been included in the report to you today. The first being to not proceed with the upgrade, which is almost the do-nothing proposal, except that we would need to do some improvements and invest some funds to do effluent management upgrades to meet regulatory requirements. So we've modelled what that would look like, and obviously that would be funded with council funds. The alternative being to proceed with funding option 2 from the capital expenditure review, so the $11 million upgrade that's already funded, and continuing with the sale yard operations under that model. So as can be seen here in the table, the option 2 of the $9.2 million upgrade has the most benefit to council. So at the end of, in 10 years' time, based on the $9.2 million upgrade, council would have $22.5 million sitting in as its cash position, as a total council, that is, not just the sale yards operation, to proceed with not doing the upgrade and only doing the effluent management works being funded by council. Council would have $22.2 million there. So the recommendation to you is to proceed with the upgrade, as we have already discussed at previous council meetings, to accept the $9.2 million from the New South Wales State Government and include this modelling in our long-term financial report, our long-term financial plan, sorry. So the recommendation that is before you right now is to note the report on the Corolla Sale Yards upgrade project, to note the capital expenditure review that's been provided to you and prepared by Morrison Lowe, and to adopt the amended long-term financial plan for 2020 to 2030, noting that it now includes revenue and expenditure, both capital and operating, for the upgraded Corolla Sale Yards project.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Longmire.
Yeah. I think your proposal or your recommendation is where it should sit, because in the journey going forward with capital expenditure, our outlay at the moment is, of our own money, is about 1 point something, isn't it?
1.4
million.
Yes.
That is something we can understand with and within reason of things being normal going forward with the continuation of selling sheep and lambs out here. We can handle all that with the risk, checks and balances around that scenario. But then as we go down the track and see if sheep numbers build up, the Australian flock herd now at the moment is really low because of the sell-off in the drought time, and so there's a rebuilding, and also in that scenario is there's a lot of grass growing, and so yeah, there will be a change in the management of sheep and lambs in the sale process. Sure, there will still be a lot of regular need and requirements for that to happen, but certainly it's the way it's presented today, I believe is the best option.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire. Councillor Meagle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm in support of this motion. I think what we have to understand here is that this is one of the few areas that provides a revenue to council. As a result, it's in a competitive market, therefore it has to keep improving to be sustainable in the long term. This is an opportunity that we've got through funding from the New South Wales Government, and that has, I think, should be wisely used to upgrade it to hopefully future-proof it as a revenue stream to council coming forward, and to provide a facility that both not only council but the region can be pretty proud of in terms of operating a sale yard. So fully in support of it. I'm pleased now that it's in the long-term financial plan, that the independent review has shown what we've always hoped would be the case, that it is economic benefit, and that we can continue to go forward as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Councillor Longley.
The secret behind all this, I suppose you'd call it a secret, is the introduction of cash into the Corowa community by all farmers and buyers coming here to spend their money on by attending the sales. You've got stock agents surviving around here because of in the Corowa community because of the yards. If we didn't have those sale yards, then I think the economy of this town would suffer dramatically.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. Councillor Ford, did you want? If there's nothing else.
Just a quick comment, Mr Mayor, if I could. Just wanted to make sure Council are really striking a great balance, I think, here with the sale yards facility needing those environmental and legislative upgrades, and I think with the enormous contribution from the state government with that big grant, I think the work that Joe and Self-Seven put into this CapEx review, Susan, Steve's team, it'll come down through delivery with water, sewer, the civil works all through the site. I think it's an enormous opportunity for Council to, as Councillor Meagle said, future-proof it. You know, we hear the sale yards team, the agents, they make comments at every meeting we have, and also our annual catch-ups that the facility's really turned around the last 5 or so years in terms of they're seeing upgrades being done, and that was with Council's own money, but they're able to now see a real game changer go on out there, and with that new service station and the whole area starting to really come forward, I think it's going to be a great step forward. I pass so many vehicles every day coming in out of Corowa, tradies and all sorts of things. I think the economic activity in our region, and it was even on the news last night around the border region broadly with housing, and I think it's in a really good time for the economy, and this pool just getting finished and another big project like that, I would envisage to be a fair bit of local work go through that centre as well. So I think it's, but yeah, back to that CapEx review, really well done to the staff. They put enormous effort into making sure we can fully consider those risks that are there. There are always going to be big risks in delivery and financial risks and all those sort of things, but I'm confident we've given them a real good show, and that'll continue to guide us through the delivery.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll put that one. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
Agenda item 8.6 is a report to allow Council to consider the final contract of sale documents for vacant council land in Chapman Street in Ranna. So, as detailed in this report, this land has been for sale since 2015. The purchase price over the reserve has now been offered and contracts of sale have been prepared. So the recommendation is to note the report and to authorise the common seal of council to be affixed to the contract of sale and associated documents for number 2 Chapman Street, Urana.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
And 8.7, my final report, is to allow council to consider the final contract of sale documents for 14 lots of industrial land in the Corowa Aerodrome Industrial Estate. So all land parcels have met the required previously agreed selling price of $30 per square metre plus GST. It's important to note that as a consequence of these sales, there is now no council-owned industrial land for sale in Corowa. So there will need to be some planning undertaken to look at what are the future industrial land needs of Corowa, and this will be subject to a further report to council. So the recommendation is to note the report and to authorise the common seal of council to be affixed to the contracts of sale and associated documents for all of the properties listed in the recommendation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Wales. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Meagle.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a bit exciting, really. I know that we've sat in this chamber and there's been discussion on the fact that industrial land hasn't been signed in Corowa. It's been made by a few of my fellow councillors. So there, we've now sold them all, and now we've got none. And I agree that the real challenge now will be probably with the Director of Environment and Planning to come up with opportunities for some more industrial land, given there is such an economic boost that the General Manager's just alluded to this town, and it's great to see it going ahead. I'm thrilled. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just actually very excited for Corowa.
Good,
see that,
wonderful.
But have you actually had feedback? Sorry, Susan, have you had some feedback on what actually businesses are coming to town, or is there sort of I don't know who do I send that to Joe? Sorry. Then is there actually other businesses that bought blocks to make their businesses bigger, or have we had any sort of? We haven't sort of had any feedback from that, so
yes.
I'd like to just out of notice here.
Yeah, so some of it is about business expansion, but there are some new ones there. So we'll have some further information at this afternoon's councillor workshop to talk to you about what is proposed for the industrial estate land.
Yeah, very exciting.
Councillor Longmire.
Oh, okay. I have the right to reply if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And just echoing my other councillors, it's funny how, yes, the land has sat there for a hell of a long time with no activity. And I think Corowa in particular is evolving in front of us and we don't realise it's happening. We've seen the pool come through, different things in our little journey on council in the time we've been here. But to see that happen, the doom and gloom with Target closing has been offset by what's happening here, the boom in real estate, the migration of people out of the cities to the regional areas. As I said, it's happening in front of us and we're not really aware of it. And when you actually put a few figures together and some of Susan's figures on development, it really is going through a boom stage, and where it ends we don't know, but we're certainly part of it.
Councillor Longmire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what's been demonstrated with this exercise, the journey to sell these 10 blocks or lots has taken how long? Probably 3-4 months, something like that. But the other thing that stands out as far as I'm concerned is that there's been no conditions applied for people wanting to purchase them, promising we should, employ 20 people and all the rest of it. This is people that have put their monies where they want to go to set the thing up without coming to council and applying a condition with employment, which used to be the old way. That's it. That's all gone now. Have a look at this. This is where it's at the moment because it's supply and demand. And it's wonderful that we're stuck fat as a council to keep the $30 and that's something that we positively have that attitude with the other blocks in Howlong and Mowala. People get to understand that stick to the reasoning of the price they're after and they'll go forward and support new industries coming.
And Councillor Longmire, I totally agree, and I think I'd have to just like to make a quick comment on that. I've got the same excitement as the rest of you councillors. It's almost like our jigsaw's finally come together piece by piece, where all these assets are fitted in well with our growing economies and more families coming into the area. So Yeah, look, I think finally we've nailed it, it's all coming together, so it is exciting times and great to see. So if there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour?
Just for the record.
Against? Carried.
Thanks, Joe. Susan down the left.
Oh, sorry, thank you, Joe.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Mr Mayor.
I'm still in awe. Number 9, the Director of Development and Environmental Services report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and Council, sorry for me being late this morning. I had a time-sensitive issue that I have to deal with. This month, we've just got the standard reports for you. So item 9.1 is the complying development and construction certificates approved in March. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Meagle.
Yeah, just a quick one. I believe that the government have extended the benefit for the building stimulus.
Yep.
Obviously, March was a big month again. Are you still seeing the same sort of activity?
Not in relation to residential development,
Okay.
no, that's slowed off.
Yep.
The main reason is with the extension to that scheme, that was to get existing people that had signed up before the 31st of March to get their jobs commenced. So we're unlikely to see an increase in residential development because of that program.
Thank you.
Councillor Watchers.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, just a query that's I just noticed the number of sheds that we've approved again each month. The question we've noticed, I just had various people have said to me that when you apply to build a shed in the town now, most people want to put their caravans in it, and most caravans to put the roof height are outside our peak height of the roof. And then they've got to go through a process to get that done. Are we behind the times with our shed specifications now?
No, that's actually a statewide control. No, that's a statewide control that's in place. That is something we are discussing with the department about the height of sheds being permissible and the fact that people are having bigger toys, essentially, that they want to store in the sheds. So that is something that's being addressed at state level.
So that's if they go to compliant development side, is it?
Our development control plan calls up the development, the SEP.
Yeah.
So that is something that we are looking at addressing.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Longmore.
Yeah, just a comment in regard to the supply of building materials. Builders are telling me that it's really hard to secure, especially trusses and all sorts of things because of the demand process. Our colleague here would understand that as well. So, yeah, he might be frustrated in the next short time.
Yes, we were notified after the fires in particular that if the timber that was burned, if that wasn't processed in a certain time frame, that there would be a shortage. We've also got importing problems as well due to COVID, so it's starting to have an impact. The stimulus has worked beautifully, but now we're seeing,
supply and
as you
demand.
say, supply and demand. We've got the demand but no supply.
Thank you.
If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Item 9.2 is the development applications approved under or determined under delegation. Again, happy to take any questions.
Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Longmire.
Interesting to note the development that's occurring in Howrong, a 23-lot subdivision. I didn't think there was any land available in Howrong by our colleague here. It seems a nice thing to see, isn't it? It's fun. Thank you.
Certainly made some changes, haven't I? Well done, mate.
Okay.
Golf club doing it,
Would there be any further comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Item 9.3 is the regional and state significant developments. There's no change since last reporting period.
Okay, moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Susan.
Susan, and we'll move on to item number 10, the Director for Engineering Services report. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 10.1 is just the works program standard report I do each month. The recommendation that council note the report.
Thank you, moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Questions or comments, Councillor Longmire?
Question to Mr Carmichael in regard to how do I put this because when I noted and travelled the Isons Road the other day, the selection process to repair, which I believe has been done by the Walsh Group in rehabilitating that road in sections, the comments that are coming to me from people that use that road every day are saying, how can we spend money and do a certain section of 10 metres, 20 metres, 15 metres in 4 different spots, and yet the rest of the road... So how is the choice made in that situation?
Budget.
Sorry, budget. But physically, is it not better in purpose, as used to happen many, many years ago, where in that circumstance, you start at a spot and you go until the budget's completed, and then you go on after in another year, rather than spot do it?
All we did was heavy patching underneath, getting ready for reseals or underneath reseals, and that's all our budget's allowing us to do at the moment. I'll present some figures either this afternoon or in the next week or so. I'll show you how far behind the 8 ball we are.
I understand that, but the question I'm asking is in selection of those areas where in between those spots, it's just the same, it's all the same.
That may be your assessment. The reason they were done in those patches is after an engineering assessment, so
well, it's not only just my assessment, Mr. Carmichael, it's also people that traverse that road every day.
I'll just go back and reiterate, I said under an engineering assessment we did for heavy patching on that road. They were the sections we designated that needed doing, and that's why they were done.
Well, that'll be the answer I'll give then. Thank you.
Thank you, Edith. Thank you, Councillor Neagle.
Yeah, just a quick question. I noticed that all the traffic signs have been upgraded. I've had reports that we're missing other signs, road signs around the Shire. Have you had any input to that, or noticed that there being, and is that an RMS thing or is that a council thing?
It's one of our own. What we've done, we've got under the first round of the fixing, I've got to remember which program, I think it was under the Fixing Local Roads program, we got money for traffic facilities, substantial amount of money to do upgrade our signage right across the Shire area. What we've done initially is concentrate on the towns and got the speed restriction signs up to date and done all that, and then progressively worked back through the Shire and do other signs. We're looking at curves where we haven't had arrows on and that type of thing. There's a lot of signage. A lot of signage has been up for 20, 30, 40 years and deteriorated to the extent you can't read some of them. So yeah, progressively we'll work through. We have a substantial budget for that.
Yeah.
So
does that include the green road signs, or is that more traffic signs?
Yeah, well, if they need doing, we'll be doing them as well. Most of them are to do with regional roads, which is a different classification again. But yeah, we're trying to get them up to the desired standard as well. So,
terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neagle. If I could add to that, Mr. Carmichael, I'm not sure if it's an RMS issue, but I'm battling to find my way home from Coro back north, but there's just no sign to show me where to go to your renner. So I'm just wondering whether that might be able to come up the list.
We used to add one a couple of times. I think we put it up, but every time we put it up, somebody takes it down on us. So
it's a collectible.
Yeah. Okay. So
I wasn't aware it had gone again. I know me way to your renner.
Sometimes I do. Any further questions there, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against carried.
Item 10.2 is the control, is the capital works program. The detail also every month. Again, have you take any questions on that?
I'll get a moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any questions or comments there, councillors? Councillor Longmire.
Yep. Well, favourite here in the Baldo water supply, Mr. Carmichael. Obviously the $14,000 was to do the test bore at the current site, which is proved futile. 90 metres, I understand, non-potable water. The next stage is what?
Go back to the other bore side of Lavis Road, or Lane, whichever you want to call it, and redo that one again. It was capped off after the last one, and we never did a 72-hour flow test on that, so that At the moment, the boys are organising to do that. And then providing that proves or tests up acceptable, we'll go ahead and get all the gear ready and cap all that off, take it into the proper bore, put the proper bore head on it, get all the electrical work. We are talking about maybe even bringing some little bit of extra, some drought money was allocated to Urana for the bore up there, which I'm hearing we may not be able to do, so we may be able to do a bit of pipe work as well.
Okay.
But yeah, certainly the money will be spent. Ben's right on top of that and has it allocated and has materials on order to get rid of that money, or not get rid of it, sorry, to utilise that money to on that bore works, and that will at least have us. If we can get this other money, we may be able to get part of the way up to the existing bore, and then hook the two together in the next 12 or 18 months to give us a much better supply in the bore barrel itself.
Just a question on the power at that new site. Does the power just go past it and you've got to...
I'm not 100% sure. That's something that we need to be aware of. And
Transformer.
Phase, what do you call it, the phases 3 and 2, the heavy one?
Three phase.
Three phase. It's right next to it.
So you need a tranny and break it down?
well, we'd also need to do a subdivision probably, because you're not allowed to put a
Yeah, straight onto the line.
You can't put a metre on a bloody road reserve now. You've got to have a subdivision before you can put a metre on there. Those are these new rules, and it's red tape. It's got to control in that department.
Councillor Longmire, just a question in relation to that, being a local. When we had that meeting out there some time ago, there was different locals said there was quite good water very close to the town, around the town. Are you aware of any of that? Or?
Look, I can go back in the history of the Balldale water supply to on the old Balldale Road, just down, probably about 2 k's down, there was a well, a wooden well that old Charlie Hudson used to have his old horse and furphy cart and go down, and it had a winch on it. This is how far I can go back, in regard to that, and they'd winch the water up into the Furphy, and then he'd take that back to Balldale, and they'd have tanks, galvanised tanks, that the people would be able to get their water and take it inside. Back in the old days, there's a well, there's a beautiful supply of water, but there's no quantity. It won't even keep up to a windmill. It does come up. It's like a little, I'm not sure, it comes out of the rocks and all that, like a spring, and but there's no quantity. And Normie Cushett, the late Normie Cushett, who was a great diviner and bore singer, he did all the bores around that area. He said that was, and we found this out with the 14,000 we spent just over further. So people are satisfied that it's been tried there, and the option you've got now that you're telling us about will be the one that'll go. Sounds terrific.
Thank you. Just a question, you made a comment, the bore, what's the problem with the one at Urana?
We just run out of time to get that work done up there. So maybe we can transfer that money over here, and then future program take some money back. What I'm hearing is we actually let the licence go, or the permit will go that we had for it, so we've got to go back and re-establish all that again. So yeah, that's what talking to Robert the other day there, that's what he was recommending. Find something to do with it, and then go with that. So.
Thank you. Nothing further, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Against carried.
Item 10.3 is the report on a couple of special projects, which are just about, I will nearly get rid of this report shortly. For the pool, which the Mayor mentioned, and most councils opened yesterday, so obviously we haven't got the final cost in yet. But at this stage, looking like, I better be careful I suppose, but we will have a surplus. I won't say any more. Just in case I'm not aware of something that's floating around, but we are all but. I'm aware that there's still one variation to come in. The reason I'm a little bit reluctant to say I haven't had a bill from Hines for this month, the young bloke that normally does their financial stuff. There was an apology yesterday, it's been cooked for a while, so we just haven't got the final bill in. Like I said, I know there's one variation from some additional gates we put on to help with the security of the area. Most of our work has been costed in there, so I'm not aware. There's a little bit of work going on at the moment to try and get some fire protection red tape sorted out, which my fellow colleague beside me is she's not pulling her hair out yet, but she's getting very close to it, I think, the way she was talking yesterday. So yeah, and apart from that, it's open and will be operational. So, and the same with the second one there, which is the, and again, I haven't got the final invoices in for the All Abilities Park at Moana, but I think that's looking like it'll come in slightly over, but it won't be probably as much over as, unless there's some variations there that we're not aware of, or we're not aware of, that just haven't come to light at this stage, which sometimes can happen. So both of those projects are looking pretty good financially.
Excellent. Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments? Councillor Whitechurch?
Oh.
I'm sorry. Well, ladies before gentlemen. Councillor Law.
So it was very pleasing to hear the Hines people say how easy Mr Carmichael was to work with. His work ethic seems to be exemplary, and I'd like to congratulate him on that.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Councillor Law, would you like to give him a round of applause?
Oh no,
Councillor Whitechurch.
Mr Mayor, whilst it's not, I guess, in your area, Mr Carmichael, I just noticed yesterday at the opening we didn't have a coffee machine installed in the cafeteria. I know it was a contentious point at one point, and I don't know whether it was money or what the reason was, but it's got a little bit of a surplus, and given that the coffee company supply machines, I think we can't sell cake at a cafeteria without having a coffee machine. And they do only sit on the bench and plug in.
Thank you, Councillor Whitechurch. I think that's a great idea. Okay, Councillor Longley?
Just, I know it's not listed there, but just for an update for finance people, the Howlong Football Club has got their final payment from the department, 80,000 came through last week, so it should be heading your way very shortly. And the other one, the AFL, has come up with their $100,000. It's in our bank account.
Wow, that's a good job too. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Longley.
Question.
Councillor
If
Longley.
I may, through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Longley, the AFL's contribution through AFL ACT New South Wales or Victoria?
New South Wales.
There's a lead in there for what they want to do over the road, understanding that.
Yeah.
Good.
I've got the contacts in Sydney if you want.
Yeah, we've got them already.
If there's nothing
But
further,
I'll follow that up.
I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against carried.
Item 10.4 is a tender conduct report for procurement of a replacement of a motor grader, which we intend to refer to confidential.
So move with the question.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, and I'll get a second at Councillor Law. Question, Councillor Longmire.
Can I ask Mr Carmichael where will the grader be stationed?
It's replacing one of the ones down here.
Sorry?
It's replacing one of the ones down here.
Okay, thank you for that.
It's the Caterpillar grader that Ben Wilson drives at the moment.
Any further questions, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Very good. Item number 11, notice of motion. Question with notice. Notice of motion. We've got one there from Councillor Longmire. The council, as a matter of urgency, make a bus trip to inspect the following roads: A, Bulldale Road between Riverina Highway and Bulldale Township, and B, the Culver Road between Lockhart Road and Borey Creek Road. Can I get a seconder for? Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Meagle. Councillor Longmire, would you like to speak to that?
I'd like to speak to it, Mr Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, two things. In the opportunity to inspect these roads, it was suggested when I introduced the report to the General Manager that if it gets up at Council that it be incorporated that Council could do a bus trip to have a look at other roads as well, and I think that was a very good suggestion. But certainly, straight from the top, it's been identified in regard to family having property. Our family has property along this road, so that's been identified and called in the pecuniary interest as low stage. The history of this road goes back to 1956 when it was a gravel road. It was sealed in 4 stages over probably 2 or 3 years anyway, might not quite have been that long. This road has carried school buses for nearly all its life that I can remember in that in that situation of being sealed. And today he's still doing the same, and the school bus turns off at Lavis's Road. The history of that road to be where it's in a condition like it is today, there was a huge harvest in 1962 to the Bulldale silo, similar to what we've seen here in the last 12 months. And the grain was commissioned to go to Rutherglen to be delivered to port at Geelong. And so our opportunity in 1963, which was a very, very wet winter, one of the wettest on record, the opportunity was given to farmers to be able to cart the grain from Bulldale to Rutherglen. And in that journey, they had no weight restrictions or curtailing of overloading and all that. And so during the winter, the grain was shifted. And that's when I believe the older, lots of people around the area have said that was when the damage commenced back in that time. People have said to me, why now, and wasn't it fixed up years ago? Well, I think about 30 years ago, could be a little bit of difference there, the former Corowa Council decided to upgrade the Hopeville Road. And so that journey was an opportunity to do a very good job of what the road as we know it is today. And then the shortcut was from that section across to past the Oiltree into Bulldale, and that was a journey that most people tried to take, the more that the Bulldale Road deteriorated. There are currently 13 different farming families own property on that road, with 7 active residences. The Cullable Road, after transversing both the Bulldale Road and the Cullable Road last Tuesday, I noted 3 resident farms. I might be wrong there, but that's what I noted. I understand it's a bus route as well. The Cullable Road, in my experience on that day, I've never been along it, you could transverse at 100 or plus 100 km an hour quite safely. And I've got that on video if anybody would like to see it. The Bulldale Road, you can transverse it at 100 km an hour if you want to, but with respect to user safety and other road users, it is only possible within that limitation of about 60 to 70 km an hour, if that. The question I bring up to our General Manager, our Engineer, Director of Engineering, is, and it's been asked of me, when we talk about the road repair process around Mahonga Lane and all sorts of roads. It's a dirt road, I understand that. Karingal Road, Isons Road, around that section, and certainly this Bulldale Road, is that when the opportunity comes for the determining a suitable road for application for grant funding, which under the memo we got from Mr Carmichael, there were 5 different roads that were submitted, and obviously with Cullable Road up to $2.67 million. How does it work, Mr Carmichael, within the council structure of personnel who identifies currently the local roads in need of it, with say a merit-based assessment? How does it work? Because I'm not aware of it, and I've been on council for a long time, and I should have asked this question a long time ago. But we used to, in the old Corowa Shire, have tours, probably 3 times a year in a bus to go and have a look. And as council representative, we'd have an input into it with our colleagues, the understanding of where we all believe we vote for the expenditure of money on on local roads. Regional roads could be a different thing, and certainly state roads. We don't know that. But I'm saying this, it's very disturbing to sit on council as an elected representative, like my fellow councillors, and don't get any input into the choice by inspection as I've just described. And I'd like to understand why we don't get that input, and how is the methodology, if it is also done under metrics-based scoring.
Thank you. Mr Carmichael, would you be comfortable to answer some of those questions?
There's a few parts to the question. It's also interesting to note when I look at Bulldale, there's 5 roads going to Bulldale.
6.
There's 5 roads going to Bulldale that are classified as of high importance under Council's current road classification, including the road that goes from Bulldale to Brocklesby. And I wonder why we have 5 roads going into Bulldale that are all very, very high classification. it just seems a little bit strange to me that we have that many roads in that particular area. And as I said, Hopefield Road was obviously taken by Corrigal Council many years ago to be a arterial type road, which goes on, and most people that go into Wagga, for instance, or anywhere
That's
they
right.
would take that road and go. So, to get back to your question, there's two things. As I said before, budget is very, very restrictive. So the final decision as to which roads we apply for these, and let's face it, quite often at the moment when we get the opportunity to put in projects for funding, which we did in this case, we get maybe 2 to 3 weeks to do that. There is a huge amount of work. I can give you a look at the spreadsheet that had to be filled in for each of these roads, and it goes on and on and on. There's about 40 or 50 questions you've got to answer on each one. So it comes down in the end, probably the final call on these goes back to me on an engineering assessment. I'm quite happy, and that's one of the reasons we have formed the Roads Committee. I'm more than happy for councils to get involved. I don't want to see it get involved as I want money for this area or money for that. You've got to look at Federation Council as a whole. I've been a bit fortunate because I wasn't involved with Urana or Corrigal Council. I've come to work for Federation Council, and that's all I look at. Even when we sit in the office at times, people say, oh, you know, for the swimming pool, that's Steve's budget or that's somebody else's budget. I don't really look at it that way. As far as I'm concerned, council sets an overall budget, Federation Council, and we all get bits. Obviously, we're in charge of spending bits. So yeah, you got down. With this particular program, we were not asked to put any priority on them. We just simply put up 5 roads which have been sitting. And again, some of it comes from customer complaints. It comes from past history from people up north. I've got Kerry Anderson, who has been with council for, I don't know how long.
20, 30?
20 years, probably 30 or 35 years. We just said to them, what are a couple of roads up in the northern area that have been on your list of roads that require doing up? And as soon as you mentioned Cullerville and also Greenvale, which is another one which runs across the top that a lot of people down here probably have never travelled on. But again, it got back to that decision. We put them up. There was an assessment done by Transport for New South Wales, and that's how they've come out. Apart from that, there's not more I can say, but we do our assessment on what we consider the patching work you were talking about before. That's what we call heavy patching. I mean, I'd love to be able to do up every road. That's not feasible. And the figures that I'll bring forward in the next month or so on just where we need to go in the future is if you're going to have to, and a road doesn't last forever. Same as anything you build, doesn't last forever. It's got to be renewed. You know, a road services, if you're lucky, you might get 50 or 60 years out of it. Most of them around here are 50 or 60 years old. They're narrow roads. They're not what I call, you know, our typical standard at the moment. We build the 7 metres on a 9 metre formation for this type of road we're talking about, Bulldog, Cullerville. We go to regional roads, we're looking at an 8 metre seal on a 10 metre formation. I'd theoretically love to see our roads on 9 metre seals with 11 metre formations. But again, it just gets back to budget at the end of the day, where it becomes extremely difficult. Bus routes to us are a very high priority, because obviously there's children involved, and the last thing we want to see is a school bus come to grief on a road that hasn't been well maintained. So there's a whole series of things that we take into consideration. And again, we've also got to, with the spreadsheet we have to fill in, there are certain boxes we've got to tick before we can get a project approved. If we don't consider this criterion, I could run through, I haven't got them in front of me at the moment, there's probably 20 or 30 different criteria we had to say yes, we agree to, or no, we don't meet that criteria, and that's how they do we do the assessment, that's how they do their assessment.
Mr Mayor, with respect,
Councillor White,
if I may, the question I'm asking hasn't been answered. And I'll tell you this, because at the end of the day, I don't know what the assessment on the panel, what the local assessment that's done by council. I haven't heard whether it is industry that's and need. It's like under the Fixing Local Roads Program Guidelines, which is a copy of this here, which I printed out yesterday. And every council would have got one. It says amongst the dot points that's important for this sort of funding.
promotes regional activity, economic activity. Baldoyle currently has the most frequently visited hotel within the Federation rural area by a mile. There's no question about that. Now, whether you think that's important or not, there's 15 people work there, and every weekend there would be 300 or 400 meals served. That would match anything in Corowa at this stage. There's a grain cleaning company employs 10 or more persons. People come for a long way around because it's specific in what it does in grain cleaning. Another dot point, it enhances regional connectivity. If you go to Baldoyle Hotel for a Sunday lunch or whatever, the first thing you do is go by Google. And which road does it tell you to go down? The Baldoyle Road. There's people that turn up at the pub that say to me, and I'm not there every time, but they say to me, it would be the worst road they've ever traversed anywhere. There's trucks that cart from Victoria to the seed cleaning place that go by Google and end up going up that road. So these sort of things, and if you talk about under the New South Wales Transport New South Wales data back to 1996, there's been a lot of money spent on road safety, and it's actually decreased. It was headlines on the Weekly Times last week. The regional road toll was decreased by 21% because of country road upgrades. There has been a fatality on that Baldoyle Road. I was part of it to find the person at night time. The current road conditions, you've only got to transverse it, and that's why I'm asking my fellow councillors if they'd endorse the opportunity to go for a ride on the road. The infrastructure risk rating of the road, safely moving people and goods to services or industry, sustaining and enhancing the livability of our places, and patching or repairing cracking or key local roads. It comes under the criteria of what this document says it should do. My question after transversing, and I'm not crook on anybody that lives at Culleval, is that the priority has been given for $2.7 million to fix that road. I cannot understand why we aren't getting that opportunity as a priority at that Baldoyle Road. And that's my question. I actually had the opportunity to ask our local state member, Mr Clancy, yesterday, would he take the time out when he was going back to Albury to transverse the road. He did that, and I thank him dearly for that opportunity. He sent me a text when he got off the road heading to Albury, which said he pulled over, obviously, and said, I've got a fair argument. Now, that's our local state member saying my argument is sustainable. And I'd like you councillors, fellow councillors, to take the opportunity. That's what I'm asking now. It's not about me. It's about the fact that let's do something that we avoid an opportunity where one day, and I'm going to say it, I've got grandkids on this bus, and other people have got kids and grandkids that I don't want to have to do what I did 20 odd years ago to find somebody.
Councillor Longmire, just a bit of clarification. On the background information to support the motion, I just want to clarify, is the rationale behind this bus trip to try and change the course of the funding from the Culleval Road back to the Baldoyle Road? Is that where the intent is?
In speaking to Mr Clancy, who I think is very capable, his idea was he would talk to the Minister for Transport to see if there was something that could be done. And also he suggested he would find out if there was more available funding. I couldn't ask any more than that.
Just if I could just make a few comments, thanks Steve too. Look, I'm not going to compare the Culleval Road, the Baldoyle Road or any other road, one's worse than the other, or, you know, there's more families. There just happens to be 8 families on that Culleval Road, not living on the road, but their property is back on the road. But I'm not interested in comparing what's worse than the other. My problem and the big issue is here, and I see there's probably a bit of operational, we're delving a little bit into operational. We have paid professional people to make assessments on our road. That's the process. They put them up at short notice to the state government to get allocated some funding. There was 8 or 9 shires involved in this stream of funding, and
in our region,
and there was one road successful in each of those council areas. Fortunately for us, the Culleval Road, as you've said, it was $2.7 million, and I think the Baldoyle Road around that $2 million mark. So we did get the highest allocation out of all those councils to fix a road. The problems I see with it, it's not transferable. It does say that in that document there. it's been chosen by an outside body, so nobody in this council, our engineers, they did their job, they put them up, but it's been determined by an outside body which road was going to get the funding. I see a financial risk, or a possibility of financial risk there, in that going back, and I'd like to ask the engineer whether that could possibly happen, whether we're going back to the state body that selected the road, that's granted us the money. Is there any slight risk that maybe they might say, well, we'll give it to someone else, they don't want it? Number two, the figure is $2.7 million, so if they do change the road, if that was successful, do we then give them $700,000 back because it's only going to cost $2 million on the Bordeaux Road? I personally would like to see all these roads funded. So from here in, I understood there was some money that is available for that particular road to start to try and rehabilitate it by trials. Council has got some funding there, so they're working on it. But my understanding is this is the first round of a large bundle of funding. There will be other rounds fixing country roads. It's billions of dollars. There may be, like I'm saying, what I'm saying here is, yeah, look, I'm very grateful to get that 2.7. Thank you very much. That's going to do a lot of things for our council, apart from repair roads and make them safe for everyone. It's employment, it keeps our wheels turning. We've just got to keep chasing all opportunities. And you have said, not doubting anything you've said today about the Bordeaux Road, it's of high importance, and we have to keep following up our funding streams. We should be going back to our member and saying, we want money for this particular road because it's of high importance. But personally, the decision was made by an outside body. I wouldn't like to risk trying to change that decision. The money, it states that it's not transferable. I don't want to turn around and give even if it is changed, we give $700,000 back for a lesser amount road. I think we should just push on and make sure we get the Bordeaux, push on the fight to get the Bordeaux Road done as well. Could you elaborate on what I've said about the bucket of funding that is in this?
It's the Fixing Local Roads program was announced last year. The state government put $500 million towards it. The feds then kicked in and put a $1.91 million, I think. Thereabouts, which gives us close to 700,000. It is a 5-year program, and this is only round 2. This round of funding they allocated 150 million, and I'm just trying to remember what was in the first round. And I think it was around 200 million. 250, 200. Yeah, it was around that figure. So they've probably allocated somewhere between. So even if they've allocated 400 million, so which I don't think they quite have, there's still 300 million sitting there which will need to be allocated in future programs, which I would suspect with an election coming they'll probably announce another round of this sometime in the next few months. So, yeah, and I think there is a risk, and as Councillor Long and I said, I mean, the criteria was put out on what we were asked to put in for, and obviously the 5 roads that we put on there, or the engineering put up, we believe will meet that criteria, so I don't have the slightest problem. There's one to the other, and I said we were not asked to prioritise them, which was our highest priority, which was our lowest priority. So it's just a matter of that one was allocated. I think I'd be very reluctant to see council say we now want to change it or start down that track. I think that sends bad messages to our funding bodies. We do have 300,000 set aside in the LRCI program for Bordeaux Road to do some trial sections there, which we'll get onto as soon as the winter breaks. And that will hopefully do 3 or 4 kilometres of that road at least, and at least have some trial payments. And I think where Councillor Longmire's coming from, he's been on this for quite a while, is that we've got a whole lot of these narrow roads. There's Coringa Road out further is a shocker. It sends you up and down. Emu Park Road is another one where they're narrow, they're up and down. They all need rehabilitating, and again, it's just this matter of the budget. Where do we get the bloody money from? And, I'm very appreciative we get this sort of money, and it's certainly going to help our works program next year if we hadn't got this money, we'd be looking to cut further out of our proposed budget simply so we can keep the workforce employed.
So
there's no easy answer to it. I understand where Councillor Longmire's coming from, but I think we just got to be careful that we don't go off and say, no, this is the only road we want to do, the others are low priority, because I believe the other roads, and Whitehead Street to me is probably the one that should be the highest priority, simply because of the fact that we took the bitumen off it a few years ago as an experiment. We put a gravel road down, we're grading that about 7 or 8 times a year at the moment. The gravel's nearly all gone already. That happened just as I came here 4 years ago, I think it was. And the rest of that road back into town was a shocker as well. So that was, we could have a debate all day about it.
and I would, going forward, support, a bus trip to, as you said, we
That's all I'm asking, Mr. Mayor.
Not a bus trip, not to change the decision that's already been made by the state on this road. A bus trip to maybe, okay, this is, to me, this is done and dusted. A bus trip to have a look at that road and have a look at those other roads on the other 5 or would be 4 roads, and probably whether prioritising is coming in for the next round of funding, so we haven't got a list of 4 or 5. We can note it down to, say, the Balldale Road or this road or 2, so that there's a better chance of getting those roads over the line. I don't know, that's what...
To me, if you're going to do a bus tour, I think, no disrespect for this council, but this council is getting very close to the end of its time. If I was going to do a bus tour of roads, I'd be looking at doing it very early in the life of the new council, where there will be, hopefully, a number of these councillors will still be here, hopefully, but also there may be some new councillors on that may never have heard of Balldale Road or Cullowell Road. I know we've been on bus tours where people have been to swimming holes where they've never been to before, and there's all sorts of places some people haven't been to before.
I might just endorse that comment. I have down as a list here, just briefly, Councillor Longmire, around, we've discussed that at Mannix, our bus tours and our budget workshops, and it was, just discussed amongst us that it'd be a better thing when a new council is elected, because the other process is we've got to re-adopt the new community strategic plan or updated 10-year range plan, and roads is always our priority. Now that the pool's built, it was come through strong as well in our top 5 of the Shire-wide engagement, but yeah, that was certainly how you do it, and so we did throw that around in that aspect. And I spoke to Justin Clancy as well about this local roads funding program, and he said going forward, if it was helpful, that council could prioritise. So, but give credit to Steve and his staff, they put the best applications forward all the time on a range of different, the staff broadly across other things, not just roads, put some really great funding applications, and we do get some great results. But Justin did say on this example, if we want to do assist government panels and whatever, but take the Mayor's point too about making sure we don't prioritise a road with lesser funding if we can get more funding and then divert other money across. Not easy, but he did say it may help in the future round, because those top 5 went in. We got the one of the 5. Obviously, with all that workload, it would flow that if the program stays the same, they don't always do, they change local road criteria. They could target other things next time, we don't know, but hopefully if they stack on roads, freight task or whatever else, school buses, we could revisit those applications, and maybe councillors could endorse them that submitting 1 or 2 above each other. So, but it is a tough one, and we've got the road improvement strategy coming forward too, which I think will give more say to councillors as a whole to look at why there's so many high priority around Balldale and what you had in terms of hierarchies, and get that. It's hard work, but it's Tony Rentale and that'll lead in that, and I know Fred's been on that, Councillor Longmire's been on that group, trying to get a better understanding of why we'd be putting in grant applications. But a lot of it, since they set up fixing country roads, the government wanted to depoliticise locally those applications. They wanted to have technical, whether they make right or wrong decisions, but they want to be based on, firstly, local engineering assessment and input, but then an independent panel even of the politicians in Sydney, and I'm assuming local roads would be a similar thing. So it doesn't have that sort of near my place, or not saying about Fred's comment, but they want to make sure they try and put it on a hierarchical basis. So I think we just see hopefully we can lobby for the next round and get that out. Yeah.
Councillor Whitechurch, would you?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just I noticed in the couple of letters that come back from the Minister for Regional Roads to Mr. Carmichael that the reason that we were given Gulliver Road was that it was a shovel-ready project, and he stated that in his thing. Were the other 4 roads that we put up shovel-ready? Yes. Which then obviously comes back to Councillor Longmire's comment is, I mean, how do they pick the road? We all agree that that's the thing, and we all know that Baldale Road is like the other roads that Mr Carmichael mentioned. You could go to any member of the community or their close-knit community and pick up Emu Park Road, Merton Road. We were out at Miranda a couple of weeks ago, and there was roads at Miranda that you wouldn't ride 2 push bikes on, but the members of the community are aware of that and they're happy with it. Does that make it right? Do we accept that as a road? I also acknowledge that we just haven't got the funds, and obviously the government haven't got the funds to throw money for every regional road to be fixed. I'm sure that if we as councillors and the new council, when they come in, went to a bus trip and they decided that yes, these are the roads that we prioritise, and then we put them out publicly, you would get slammed if you put 4 roads up because parcels of people, not saying just the people at the Baldale Hotel, but the people that live out Merton Road or Emu Park Road go, well, why didn't our road get mentioned? So I get that there's no right way to do it, but I do think that maybe, yes, the decision's been made here, we have to be able to have some input, even if it's through Mr. Justin Clancy, to make it happen a bit better, because it seems we're not getting the way that we want sometimes.
Thank you.
I have the right to reply, can I, Mr Mayor? Certainly in the debate that's occurred, the argument that Councillor Whitechurch put up about other areas and other roads that aren't reasonable. The question I've asked today is how do we operate under the paperwork system that Mr Carmichael identified in a matrix system whereby, and it says here 15% under this document, 15% for one category, 15%. So it's a matrix-based point scoring opportunity, and the highest point scorer obviously gets the opportunity. And there's about 7 or 8 different parts of that document. I haven't seen anything or heard anything here that tells me that when we assess these roads, the 5 roads, that there's an assessment based on that sort of calculation that's in the main document that becomes part of what the funding is. Well, I haven't heard anything here today that tells me that.
Point of order, I said the 5 applications we filled in the forms that are asked for by that particular document.
So we don't rate them, that's the government's rating, I would have thought.
Whole 5 roads we put up all had that criteria assessed and documented and sent to the government.
So we don't see it through your report.
I can give you a copy of it.
That's the sort of thing I've asked at the original question here of Mr Carmichael.
But I think to the Mayor's point, it's blending into operational areas. We're going to give councillors, or individual councillors even, copies of detailed spreadsheets and applications. I don't know that would cut for a councillor involvement.
Why not?
We're not engineers here.
But it's an understanding. This is what freedom of speech or understanding at this level is all about. Understanding why it's become, when you're talking about the things that I've mentioned here in this motion, that's where we should be transparent.
Yeah, the system has been transparent in that everything went in, 5. It was selected from an external based lot of people. Nothing to do with anyone or any staff in here. So it's been selected outside here. How they did that, I can't answer. We just have to keep trying for all our roads, for all our communities, because they're all important to every community, as been pointed out here.
No argument. No
I think
argument.
the bottom line is we didn't rate or rank them. We didn't deliberately or otherwise put through certain scoring or whatever the criteria that Steve's team had to submit to get them all compliant. But the bottom line is they're all compliant, they're all put forward as equals, and the government, for whatever reason, budget or however they wanted to fit it in their bucket, pulled Caldwell out of the list. But yeah, there was no.
I suspect the reason got it because it was the one that gave us the most money.
Yeah, we probably had the most solid applications, what we'd heard as well, across the board.
So, any further comments there, councillors?
We've done the right replies.
We've done the right reply?
We've done it.
We'll vote.
Yeah.
Would you like to put it to a vote?
Have to.
Yep.
So we're voting to go on a bus line.
So,
As it reads is, council as a matter of urgency, make a bus trip and inspect the following road, or put roads Balldale Road between River End Highway and Balldale Township, and Culver Road between Lockhart Road and Bory Creek Road. But taking on board Councillor Longmire's comment that you would want to include other roads as part of that tour.
Okay, Councillor Meagle.
Could I move an amendment, Mr Mayor?
Yeah.
That rather than as a matter of urgency, that road trip be prioritised for the term of the new council.
Second that.
Thank you. So we've got an amendment there.
We'll just wait for that to come up.
Mm-hmm.
Do a cut.
That changes it really changes that motion, that amendment, in so much as I think Councillor Longmire's looking for a bus trip now to make an opinion on the funding that we've got been just awarded now. Would that be correct?
Well, that's not what the motion says.
Yeah, so I think the point the Mayor's making is correct in that the amendment was seeking to do the trip after the new council, or with the new council. That'd be a direct opposite almost. I think it'd be enough to be a new motion if this is defeated. So if it's a minor change, I think you do an amendment, like including other roads or something, but I think you probably need to let the fund vote, and then if you want to bring forward another motion off the back of that.
Well, let's deal with the one. I'll withdraw the amendment. And
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, because I think clarity.
Too much of an opposite.
Yes,
all right.
and the clarity in this is that the purpose of that bus trip, the bus trip is to be now, and that is to change the course of that funding from the Culleval Road back to the Balldale Road. That is what we're talking. Is that right, Councillor Longmire?
I'm sorry, Mr Mayor, I have to disagree with you with respect. The purpose is to show and explain to councillors. How many councillors have been on the Culleval Road? I've never certainly been on one, it. And so the purpose is to deliberately have a look at those two roads, but other roads as well, not consigning any, what would you call it, deliberation to make council change their mind about it. I just want an inspection of these two roads within the term of this council, and have a look at other roads as well.
I'm sorry, Councillor Longmire. I just took that out of because I read that I'm requesting council to have input into the allocation
Of the funding.
of the grant funding, as mentioned in the workshop. That's where I got that from.
Yeah. I'm a team player, Mr Mayor. I'm a team player, and I don't want to direct anybody here their way of thinking, which we are in that regard.
Yeah.
All I want to do is, that's what the motion's about. I've explained the reason why I put it into position, that the understanding is completely, it is a road trip, which I think Councillor Longley has supported in workshops and that, for the intent of having a look, and then after that, it'll take care of itself.
So that amendment would have fitted. That your amendment?
No, it wouldn't, because it was talking about a new council.
Yeah, I was. No.
So your current council will have a road trip as well? Is that?
Oh, time will tell that.
Sorry? Would you like to see the current council?
The current council, yeah.
That's
Just
why
go for a road trip,
Right.
including those two roads, but have a look at 20 other roads, 30 other roads, anywhere,
Okay.
if it can be put together.
With no intent of changing funding, is it?
Because we haven't done one for 2 years.
That's that, yeah.
It's been doing 3 years. Yeah, 17. 17, 18.
I'm not to change the funding.
Well, it can't be to change funding, so even if this gets up, it'll only be to do those things. It's not saying point C to then reallocate.
Okay. All right. Those in favour? All in favour of a bus trip to have a look at the roads? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One against. Thank you.
Okay, so did you want to
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for the opportunity.
Welcome, Councillor Longmire.
continue or do, I saw morning tea come through, but it's up to council.
Can we break for morning tea, please?
Well, yeah, we'll break for count. Would someone like to suspend? Sorry, Councillor Lee. Suspend by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Law. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.